And I'm thinking about a strange time in my own life where I lived beneath an avid drinker and champion smoker, Sylvia Danzinger. And she talked like this because she smoked so much. So she sounded a little bit like Harvey Fierstein. And she walked a lot on bare wooden floors. And I was a light sleeper, and it was an old building that creaked and croaked, and apparently the not yet famous Courtney Cox, who ended up being on, lived either in my unit or on another floor, but she lived in the E column of this building before she was famous. I felt like every footstep was dogging me, and I started taking it personally pretty early on. Whether she wore shoes or was barefoot, there was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of back and forth. And a friend of mine, when I was complaining about this, said, yeah, you can't really say to your neighbor, could you make your sandwich before you sit down to watch TV, without sounding neurotic. On the other hand, however, when my window was open in the heat and her window was open in the heat, and I could hear bouncing off the air shaft that she had rented for an extended duration, Riverdance, and she would watch it. She watched it for maybe 48 or 72 hours. So I heard the of the clogging, and I would hear lots of soprano wailing and reedy flutes. Virtually everyone in the building heard me complain about Sylvia. My landlady heard me complain about Sylvia. My friends heard me complain about Sylvia. I don't know that I ever heard me really complain about Sylvia because I never got it out of my system. One night I came back to my building and the superintendent was on the stairs. He said, there's been a fire, and I thought, oh no, my dog died. That isn't what he was telling me. But what happened was a fire in the unit above me, and the firefighters came to put out the fire. Water puts out a fire. But then water also likes to move downward. And so all of the water damage went into my unit. So I walked in, and it was a little humid. Like a not very warm, not a warm enough steam room or sauna. And my dog was sitting there looking at me like, hey, chill as could be. For the next, I don't know, week, 2, 3 weeks, Sylvia was in her unit with the windows, they couldn't close because the glass, well, they were closed, but they weren't sealed because the glass had been beaten out by the firefighters. And she was in her undergarments, just going through stuff, all of it charred. And it has me think about this question, and who is my neighbor? And we have this idea of the Good Samaritan, someone who does a good deed, when really the Samaritan was the outcast in society. The Samaritan was the person not doing a good deed. Yes, doing a good deed, but the Samaritan was the one at the bottom. The Samaritan was the one who had virtually nothing. The Samaritan was the one who got scorned and derided. So when the Samaritan goes to help the person who's been robbed and left for dead in a ditch, the question is, who is your neighbor? And one of the answers is the person you don't want to have touching you, or talking with you, or being with you, or acknowledging you. It's the person you want to move on down the road.